Hi, yoga teachers. It's Aneta Itrak here. Hope you are doing well. Today, I wanted to share with you 5 principles of trauma-informed yoga. This is a question, the question around what is trauma-informed yoga? How does it work? How do you define it? How is it different from normal yoga? Or sometimes people think that, oh, maybe it's yin yoga. Sometimes people think, oh, maybe it's gentle yoga, doing things in very gentle way. So I wanted to share that with you today. The 5 principles or the 5 pillars of trauma-informed yoga. Trauma-informed yoga is all about providing a space for our students, our clients, and ourselves that is based around safety. So the first pillar or the first principle of trauma-informed yoga is safety. Safety is number one when you teach trauma-informed yoga. All practices we teach our students need to increase their inner sense of safety. And we do that through creating physically safe environment, and as well as emotionally safe, emotional safety. And we do that through the way that we teach and the quality of the relationships that we have with our students. So safety has to be number one. It comes from understanding that somebody who has experienced trauma, whether it was childhood trauma or adult trauma, whether they suffering from PTSD or complex PTSD or post-traumatic stress disorder, or their trauma manifests itself through anxiety or other mental health issues, or the sense of being unsettled. When we understand that trauma creates this sense of unsafety, it becomes, the body becomes an unsafe place, the environment becomes an unsafe place, other people are unsafe. The person who has experienced trauma is living constantly with that sense of lack of safety. Nothing is safe, nowhere is safe, including their own body. So this is why when we understand that, we can then start using our practices and teach in a way that allows for that sense of safety. And from that, from this biggest value, the most important value, the safety is number one in everything that we do, comes the quality of us as a yoga teacher teaching trauma-informed yoga, or teaching through a trauma-informed lens. So the second principle is the trust or trustworthiness. And that is about our relationship with our students and the way that we are as we are teaching and as a person. So our work as yoga teachers is primarily built on relationships. And those relationships need to be built on trust. And how do we do that? We do that through really teaching and being in integrity. We bring into everything that we do and everything that we teach ethics and a certain way of being. So we are aware of power dynamics. We are aware of what we say and how we say it. We also bring our boundaries, so our clear boundaries, something that I called compassionate boundaries. We are clear about, this is what I can help you with, this is the parameter within which I work, and this is what I cannot help you with, but I can point you in the direction of somebody else who might help you with that. So we know, for example, that as yoga teachers, we don't work with crisis intervention. We don't work if somebody is in acute phase of mental health, because in that space of physical, in a lot of physical pain, we know that there is something else that is needed. But we can work alongside of other professionals. As a professional, as a yoga professional, yoga teacher, we are professionals. We can work with other professionals to bring that joint way of working to support somebody through their difficulties. But we will never take on what we are not trained in and what we don't have experience in. It also means little things like, showing up in a respectful and consistent way as a professional. If I book an appointment with you, I will show up on time for that appointment. If I cannot show up, I will let you know in advance so I don't waste your time. I don't say I will do something and then I don't do it. Or if something happens that I couldn't do it, I own up to it. It's like, I'm really sorry, I couldn't do it. This is the reason. So really being mindful about how we behave and who we are moment by moment impacts that relationship that we have with our students and our clients. And it's really stepping up into this role of embodied leader, what I call embodied leader, really walking your talk, really supporting your students, but also supporting yourself. This is where their compassionate boundaries come in. There's a lot of burnout in yoga communities, the same as any other caring communities. My background is in social care. I've worked for close to 22 years with trauma and mental health and, domestic violence and child protection issues within social care for 16 years and then within community. I work all the time, not just with yoga teachers, but other people who are in other caring professions. The burnout, vicarious trauma and burnout are so high, especially at the moment. So we really need those compassionate boundaries to take care of ourselves. So then from this embodied, full, stable, compassionate space, we can take care of others. And that cannot come at the cost to our health. So those compassionate boundaries, and if you've heard me talk before, you will hear me talk about compassionate boundaries again and again and again. In our 80-hour trauma-informed yoga and embodied resilience teacher training and mentoring course, we talk a lot about boundaries. There are the basis of who we are, how we work, and they provide the safe container for us and for our students, for the work that we do with our students and clients. The third pillar or the third principle of trauma-informed yoga is that we work with choice. And this is where, so the next two, the choice and collaboration, are the two pillars that really change how we show up and how we teach. The choice is about helping your students develop inner sense of agency by encouraging making choices about their practice and their self-care. Not just on the mat, but also off the mat. When we practice and teach in a certain kind of way on the mat, there are changes that are happening within our students that then they take into their daily lives. Trauma destroys a person's inner sense of agency. Often they feel they do not have a choice, or they don't have permission to make choices that they want. So this is how we help our students increase their own sense of control that they have over their body and their life. We start this way of repeating. This is the pose that we are doing. For example, this is the pose that we are doing. And here are 2 or 3 options from which you can choose. You can choose the level of intensity, or you can choose how you do this pose, or you can choose not to do this pose at all if it doesn't feel right, if it makes you feel unsafe, if it's causing you pain or discomfort, we give permission to our students and our clients to really choose for themselves and take control for themselves, initially of their body and the choices they make in their practice around the breath and movement, and that then spills into their daily life. And the collaboration, the fourth pillar of trauma-informed yoga, is about really understanding and being mindful of power dynamics in our relationship with our students. So often when people go through therapy or through treatments, they do not have a choice. This is how you do it. This is how you do this pose, or this is how you have to look after yourself, or this is, we want to take that away. We want to understand that, yes, we can be the most compassionate people, the most open teachers and practitioners, and yet there is still a power dynamic that is present for various different reasons. Even just thinking about, I am a teacher, you are a student, or I am a teacher, you are a client, or I am a therapist, you are a client. There is already a power dynamic here. So how can we, and that will always be there. So we need to be aware of it and then bring it in and slowly work with it. So we acknowledge it and we work with it in much more mindful and compassionate way. And that in that way, we invite our students and we give them permission. Initially, we give them permission, and then later they can give themselves permission to make decisions about how they want to practice, how they want to do this breath, or how they want to do this pose. And that helps reinforce that sense of agency and control. And then the last pillar is the pillar, it's almost like the outcome of all the other four pillars of the safety, when safety is number one in our teaching, the trust and trustworthiness, the way that we show up, the way that we hold space for ourselves and for our students, when we work with choice and collaboration with our students, that leads to the empowerment, because trauma-informed yoga is all about supporting and teaching our students in a way that helps them build that inner sense of empowerment and build resiliency. Sometimes we think, some people are born with resiliency or much more resilience. That's how they are, and others are not. But actual resiliency is a skill. It's a way of being able to cultivate, nourish, and draw on inner resources. It's a way in our daily life. It's a way of really understanding that we can draw on outer resources and having the courage to ask for support. So the key here is to help our students feel validated and affirmed with us as teachers and with each other, and really supporting them to be empowered, to be resilient. So this is what I call embodied resilience. Through embodiment practices, through yoga practices, through somatic movement practices, through breath practices, through meditation, various meditations, the ultimate aim is to help somebody feel empowered in who they are, how they are, and the choices that they make in their lives. Not just on the mat, but in their daily lives. So this is what makes a trauma-informed approach different from other approaches. It's those 5 pillars. And you can be teaching a gentle yoga. You can be teaching more flow yoga. You can be teaching Kundalini yoga. When you bring this understanding of trauma-informed yoga, trauma-informed approach, it will really change how you teach. You will notice naturally there is more space. Naturally there is a little bit more of slowing down. There is more choice. There is more compassionate self-acceptance. There is more of just allowing. Not necessarily surrendering, but allowing and accepting of our inner experience and meeting it in a compassionate way. So 5 core principles or 5 pillars of trauma-informed yoga is what we cover in our 80-hour trauma-informed yoga and embodied resilience teacher training and mentoring course. It's important that if you want effectively to support your students, especially in the current climate, I just read that, there is a winter wave of COVID coming. And, we had 2 winters of COVID, the lockdowns, we have a war in Ukraine, we have the energy prices going up, the crisis of living, the government's changing here in UK. There is a lot going on. And what I am seeing in my students, in my clients, but also in the yoga teachers that I train and mentor, is how those last 2.5 years, those last 3 years are impacting us in a really profound way. And how we need different approach, different skills to understand what's going on for somebody, how they're presenting in their nervous system, how they're presenting in their body, and be able to meet them where they are at. It's a set of skills that we normally are not trained in a kind of regular yoga teacher approach. And from my experience, I've been teaching for 12 years and obviously working with trauma and mental health and other complex needs for 22 years. From my experience, we all need practices, more understanding, more knowledge, but also real embodied practices that are really quick to implement, that allow us to change our state and really nourish and cultivate inner resources. And from that space, also be able to ask for support from others. So I hope that makes sense. We are starting our next cohort of trauma-informed yoga teacher training in 1 week on the 7th of October. If you are interested, reach out to me, message me, check out the information on my website, and join us for the next 3 months. Well, it's really 4 months because our last session is in January. And get that support for yourself. So you have got the skills, so you learn the skills to support your students through this difficult time, but also to support yourself. One of the most common feedbacks that I get from teachers who come through our training is that it really changed their own relationship with themselves, with how they look after their needs, and the way that they work, not just the way that they work with others. So I hope that makes sense. I hope you found it useful, and I will be seeing you again soon.